Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. Hey, why don't we all get together and begin a Thursday? Gary, how are you?
I'm doing very good. And my favorite story of the day was it finally happened. After all of the focus groups and the reparations groups formed by the California government to figure out what reparations should be. And we heard figures, everything from $1 million a person. Well, actually, it started out, at 230,000, I think. And then we're 230, 240,000. Then it went to $1 million. Then it went all the way up to, depending on who you were talking to, the analysis, $200 million per person.
Right.
Is where it came out. So the California legislature finally, after all of the discussion over the last couple of years in California, coming up with numbers for reparations that would absolutely bankrupt the state and was not possible. And then Gavin Newsom, after creating all of this, came out and said, well, it really all isn't about money. I'm like, well, all they're discussing is money.
Listen, everyone, this isn't about money. I'm sorry, you started the conversation. And you started it with money.
Money, exactly. So after all the analysis, the legislators in California have introduced a first-in-the-nation package of reparation bills.
All right.
And the amount of money that will be given to each eligible recipient under the legislation introduced, zero.
Because it's not about the money.
Because it's not about the money.
How dare you believe this is about the money?
Zero. And some of the other proposals that probably aren't going to see the light of day. Separate schools for black children.
They want to go back to segregation. Liberals want to go back to segregation. Told you.
According to Breitbart, or actually Politico, Breitbart reprinted what Politico had. The 14 measures introduced by the Legislative Black Caucus touch on education, civil rights, and criminal justice, including reviving a years-old effort to restrict solitary confinement that failed to make it out of the State House as recently as last year. Not included is any type of financial compensation to descendants of black slaves, a polarizing proposal that has received a cool response from many state Democrats, including Governor Gavin Newsom. Another proposal, Politico says, could run into a constitutional challenge. Well, duh. This was introduced to change California's constitution to allow the state to fund programs aimed at increasing the life expectancy of improving educational outcomes for and lifting out of poverty specific groups based on race, color, ethnicity, national origin, or marginalized gender, sexes, or sexual orientation, which would be unconstitutional under federal law.
Of course.
So the big bills for reparations, one would be unconstitutional, and the other would be $0.
And they would all be racist.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. Let's go back to segregation. Liberals have really, it really is, you know what it gets back to? That wind-powered ship. Remember that? Remember that? Here's the rendering of a wind-powered, you mean a sailboat? We've done that. They're coming full circle, and these new liberals, these, 24-year-old liberals, at least they have the 24-year-old mindset. Hey, I've got an idea. What about separate schools?
How about the idea? Let's throw this by you. Separate but equal.
Right. Well, here's the thing. You know why they don't know that it's happened? Because they don't teach that in school anymore. Right. Revisionist history wrote it out. They don't even know about it.
Well, wouldn't that be racist not to teach about segregation, Jim Crow laws, and slavery in this country?
Well, that's the thing. Biden going off on the Georgia voting laws as Jim Crow 2.0. They had no idea. They thought, young people thought Jim Crow was Donald Trump's running mate.
Or a whiskey.
Oh, wait, did you see the guy that was arrested for moonshine? For making moonshine? Who makes moonshine in 2024?
I just saw, what's his name, the comedian, do a bit on that on YouTube yesterday.
What?
What's his name? I can't think.
Yeah.
The guy you like. Not Bargatze, the other one.
Dusty Slay?
No.
Oh. No. That's a whole list of them, but yeah.
Way more famous.
Brian Regan?
Brian Regan.
Oh, yeah.
Did the whole thing on that.
Yeah, on making whiskey?
On moonshine.
Oh, yeah.
Saying the reality show. This goes back a few years, a reality show on moonshining. He goes, hey, someone tell him it's legal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've been saying that for years. It's like, why would you? I mean, I could understand like an experiment. Hey, I wonder if I could ever make this. But this is the problem that the left has, is that they honestly, because of revisionist history, they either want others to forget about it or they just themselves forget about it altogether, or believe, like with single-payer systems, hey, we're the U.S., we'll do it right. Socialism, we're the U.S., we'll do it right. They believe that, oh, no, we can do segregation differently.
Well, the interesting thing is, if we ever came out and promoted, think about this, a separate but equal system of education,
right?
We probably would be fired.
Yeah.
Because there would be so much, sponsor objection to that. Well, these guys are outright racist.
Right.
The liberals are promoting like crazy, separate but equal, segregation. And it's like, oh, okay, well, it's fine for us. It's fine for us to throw out absolutely racist ideas of how to run the society, and we just keep going on and keep promoting it.
Well,
and the donations keep flowing in as we promote a racist society.
And it's not new. The universities, remember, on campuses, this goes back, I don't know. How long ago was that they started saying, well, we should have separate dorms?
Oh, that goes back at least to the University of Missouri riots.
Right.
Remember when Carrot Top?
Yeah.
The Carrot Top professor.
Yeah, give me some muscle over here.
Yeah.
Her.
The
I
Carrot.
wonder what she's doing these days.
The Carrot Top
I
professor.
heard she's doing a residency in Vegas.
Well, but when you look at this here, when you look at the whole process of the reparations movement in California, it really does encapsulate all of liberalism today.
Well, yeah, it's how they. We've
right.
been saying it's how they think.
They come out with the plan, and it is not in the realm of possibility to ever do. The finances aren't there, and so what they do is they keep promoting more impossible bills. As they were, or more impossible ideas, because they went from 240 or 230,000 to $1 million. What San Francisco was throwing out, what was it, $5 million, and then it was all the way up to $200 million.
Yeah,
but it's got to be $200 million, and that's just not in cash. And we're like, these people are nuts. But it got to be that the more that you would promote something that was more impossible to do, this is liberalism today. Your virtue signaling is better. You are viewing yourself as more of a moral person because you're suggesting something that's even more unreasonable to reach. But the fact that you're saying we should do what is impossible makes you a better person. Then when it finally comes down to, okay, the legislation, forget about 230,000, forget about 240,000, forget about $1 million, forget about 5 million, forget about 10 million, forget about 200 million, zero. And anything else they're proposing, the one is absolutely unconstitutional. It wouldn't, according to federal law, and the rest are just it's not going to do anything.
Well,
so it was an exercise in futility, but an exercise in virtue signaling that we care more.
Well, and I would really love to get into the weeds on that whole plan of what they say, extending life expectancy for certain groups.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where does that start? Outlawing cigarettes and the sale of cigarettes to certain said groups, right?
Well, yeah, that's a great point. If you're attempting to extend the lifespan of particular
We're
groups,
going to save you from the big bad tobacco companies by outlawing the sale of tobacco to minorities. Oh, please talk more about that one. I mean, because that's what you would have to do, right? I mean, what they'll tell you is, well, we're going to provide, provide medical care. I mean, they would have to probably put them on the state California state Medicaid program. That's probably, okay, we'll expand the Medicaid program based on which group you belong to. We'll do that. But also you have to do preventive. And it would have to include, how does it not include outlawing the sale of cigarettes?
But you make a great point, because if you're looking at certain demographics and certain groups and say we only want to increase their lifespan,
right,
and not white people's lifespans,
right.
Well, then if you came out with a law to ban all cigarettes, would there be an objection that this was only supposed to expand the lifespan of these certain demographics, not white male Christian men? I was right. That's what the Christian there.
Right. Yeah.
White male Christian men.
Right.
No, they need to be allowed to continue smoking because we need to catch up with the lifespan.
Yeah, we need to ramp that up over here.
So whites can smoke cigarettes.
Yes, in fact, we encourage it.
Right, but any other
we'll give you coupons, state-sponsored coupons for cigarettes.
20% off cigarettes. But if you said ban cigarettes overall, you'd have an objection saying, no. You're talking about, by banning cigarettes, you're talking about increasing the lifespan of all people.
Uh-huh.
No. This isn't about that.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the thing is, everybody's listening going, you guys are just being really stupid. Yeah, you're right.
Uh-huh.
But we're saying the insane things that they do, I could see somebody actually promoting that on the left.
Well, to be clear, we're not the ones promoting the return to segregation.
No, exactly. Yes, the anti-racists are the ones promoting segregation.
Right. So this is what they've come up with.
God,
so the liberals understand now, or they recognize fully that there's no way to pay for it. Right?
Right.
So no money is mentioned, but we're going to do a lot of things for you.
Right.
Seriously, the conversation on this is going to be so great because it's going to demonstrate exactly what we've been talking about. This is how they think. This is their mindset. How do you implement this plan? How is it that someone wouldn't bring up, well, what we need to do is ban the sale of cigarettes to minorities? Because if you're truly, when you say extending life expectancy, by the way, I want to be clear. I have no wish for any group, entity, local, state, or federal government to work in favor of extending my life expectancy. Including the scientific group. You know what? I'm just letting it roll. I'm going to ride this thing out. Where it ends, it ends. Don't be stretching it to 100. Hey, Eric, we've got great news. No, you don't. Don't mention it's 150 years old. I don't want to hear it because I don't want to be here for 150 years. Now, I am going to haunt the place. I will be back. This is going to be so great in listening to this because they're going to try and explain away the money thing. It's been about money from day one, and now, oh, no. What we're going to do for you, you can't put a price on. That's how they're going to try and sell this.
I know.
We're going to extend your life expectancy. Based on who? Well, we have a scientist over here. He's going to be doing some numbers. I mean, that's how it's going to go.
Just amazing. We got a great show ahead. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Owner-operators can save a hefty amount of money by participating in discount fuel networks. If you're leased and your fleet has a fuel optimizer program, use it. Such a program helps plan a trip based on fuel prices and locations in the carrier's fuel network. The larger the carrier, typically the larger the discounts that are possible. Fees for using such networks have become rare thanks to competition for drivers. Owner-operators are well advised, however, to pass up network fuel stops that are too costly, are too far off route, sell inferior fuel, or are dangerously or poorly maintained. For independent owner-operators, a bevy of fuel discount networks exists, from a variety of traditional fuel cards to the National Association of Small Trucking Companies network and the younger mudflap applications discounts at independent truck stops around the nation. Research the options and discounts available to find the right one for you. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So the House passed their spending bill, and if you don't have to delve too deeply, when Republicans won't say that it's Republicans that are for it won't say that it's a welfare bill, and they say it's a tax bill. When they lie about that, it shows you there's a lot of bad parts to it. And Republicans that are for it, Democrats that are for it, absolutely will lie, but Republicans lying about the extended child tax credit.
Yeah.
And Wall Street Journal doing a thing saying, why are the Republicans helping the Democrats in this election? Because part of that child tax credit and everything else is they talk about how government stimulus is one of the things that really is pushing GDP.
Yeah.
Because there's so much money out there that came from the government that's still being put out, and they actually go through the figures on it. We'll go through it here in a little bit. That you look at the stock market. The stock market, hey, I'm benefiting, but what am I benefiting out of? I may be benefiting long term, but future generations are going to pay the bill for it because it's not real growth. Mm-hmm. It's not the kind of growth of private investment producing goods and services that they make a profit on. You've just got massive amounts of borrowed government money from future generations, and that's why you've got the deficit going through the roof. Probably will be over $2 trillion this year, and we are not in any type of emergency at all. And, the Republicans, look, if I understand you don't have the votes, but don't lie to the American public.
Right.
Say we don't have the votes. This is the best that we could do. But don't sit there and say that this is a child tax credit, or don't say that the child tax credit is about tax reform. It's got nothing to do with taxes. You're sneaking in another welfare program.
Yep.
At least be honest about it, but they can't be honest. And I'm talking Republicans here. Democrats, right. I know, will lie. Republicans shouldn't lie.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let's play this. This is Matt Gaetz talking about the bipartisan tax deal.
The gentleman is recognized. To the extent that this is a tax bill, there are good provisions in it on business expensing for economic growth. But, my friends, this is not a tax bill. This is a welfare bill masquerading as a tax bill. The Wall Street Journal was correct to identify the ways in which this legislation vastly expands the welfare state. And so this is how the bipartisan agreement came together. If the Republicans were willing to give the Democrats what they wanted for illegal aliens to get massive subsidies in welfare, then the Democrats were willing to give the Republicans what they wanted on a bunch of business welfare. The child tax credit, as currently contemplated, will be a massive pull factor to bring people into this country illegally. And we could have, as the majority party, demanded constraints to stop them from being able to use the money that way. But bipartisanship was more important than good policy. And as my friend from Kentucky, Mr. Massey, noted recently, if you aren't paying taxes and you get a refundable tax credit in the form of a check, that's not a tax cut. That's not even tax policy. That's just welfare. That's just giving people money that didn't initially pay it in, and a bunch of them are here illegally. But it is not just a welfare bill in that respect. It's also corporate welfare. These R&D tax credits that they've put in there are so targeted, they're bought and paid for by the lobbyists who fund their campaigns and give them donations, and it is entirely wrong. We should have a flat tax code, and the R&D tax credits that they're putting in are deeply misguided. They continue to distort the economy, and frankly, it's just another flavor of a lot of the Green New Deal tax credits that you act like you're against. But indeed, Mr. Speaker, that is not the case. This is not a tax bill. It is a welfare bill in drag, and that may be appealing to some of the proponents.
As to the, I don't know what he's talking. I haven't seen the entire bill, and we don't know what it's going to end up being when it goes to the Senate. So I don't know what he's targeting. I know he's talking about being able to fully deduct interest, but that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about the R&D, and I haven't seen where the R&D specifically goes. One of the trains of thought was that the interest, making the interest fully deductible for companies, it's retroactive. It's like, well, if it's retroactive, you're not looking towards the future, you're going back.
Right.
And in essence, that would be viewed as corporate welfare because you're going back. You know, and I don't know exactly how far they're going back, a year or two, where you can actually deduct the
I think it goes back and covers last year, which is why they're trying to get it done by April tax season. I think it goes back and covers 23.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if it goes back further than that. I believe it's 423 earnings.
And so, but you can look at it and say, but if that brings in cash to a company, that's cash that they can spend.
Right.
And so, again, not seeing the entire layout of what this is and what it's going to be, it's tough. And I don't know where he's coming from, where he says it's corporate welfare for R&D. He said the interest is, you heard Gaetz say the interest is fine.
Right. I
just don't know specifically what he means by the R&D. But it is the Republicans not telling, and it's I'm not picking on the Republicans. Democrats are pathological liars on every issue that's out there right now. So it's expected. I don't want it from Republicans.
Right.
It's not a tax bill. That part of it, the child tax credit, is not a tax bill. It's a welfare bill. Make it a welfare program. Be honest and transparent with the American public. They can't do that.
Carve it out as a welfare bill and vote on it and see how many votes you get.
But don't lie to the American public.
Right.
Now, I will say this. I mean, I did see other Republicans say it absolutely does not go, the child tax credit, to illegal immigrants. They said it absolutely does not, and the other side saying it absolutely does. So going to have to see the final text on that one. But when you look at it, as Wall Street Journal writes here, the GOP spending boost for Biden booming federal outlays are providing a short-term lift for the GDP, and they go, let's see, retail spending growth continues to exceed pre-pandemic levels. I think it was Jamie Dimon or someone out there saying there's still $900 billion that the public hasn't spent. So they still haven't spent a ton. And this was all government money.
Right.
It's all government money coming in from COVID. And it says when stock markets are up, it's kind of like this little drug. We all feel like it's just great, said Jamie Dimon recently. He was speaking for his fellow CEOs, though many Americans still wince when they see their grocery bills. But Mr. Dimon added, but remember, we've had so much fiscal monetary stimulation. Yes, we have. The San Francisco Federal Reserve in November estimated that households still have, okay, here's the figure, $430 billion in excess savings from the pandemic. These savings stem from the potpourri of COVID transfer payments, 3.5 years of student loan forgiveness, and home refinancing at low interest rates. The administration is also slathering the economy with trillions of dollars of spending from the Inflation Reduction Act, CHIPS and Science Act, and infrastructure bill. Not a day goes by that our inbox doesn't receive a Biden administration email or several boasting about another multi-billion-dollar grant somewhere in the country. The federal budget deficit for 2023 fiscal year is clocked in at $2 trillion and 7.5% of GDP, roughly double what the deficit averaged as a share of the economy from 2016 to 2019. Incredibly, the deficit during the last fiscal year was $400 billion larger than the growth in GDP. And it shows no sign of shrinking, which means you're taking borrowed money that you got to pay off, that future generations have to pay off, and you're throwing it in, and that's where the fiscal stimulation is. Because the Congressional Budget Office says the federal deficit was $509 billion in the first 3 months of the current fiscal year. If that keeps up, which I don't see why it's not going to, you'll be talking about a deficit of roughly, $2.3 trillion? Wow. But the $509 billion is 21% larger than during the same period the prior year. It's no accident that all of this is hitting in an election year. Social Security and Medicare spending climbed 12 to 13% in the first 3 months of this fiscal year compared to last. Sweetened subsidies are boosting Obamacare enrollment. Growing entitlement spending is one reason that government health care and social assistance accounted for more than half the net new jobs in December, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The deficit would be even larger if not for the Internal Revenue Service holding back a wave of more stimulus. The agency in September paused processing new claims for the COVID-era employee retention credit owing to concerns over abuse and fraud. By one estimate, the IRS has a $244 billion backlog of claims, which will flood the economy when the IRS processes them. All of this spending contributes to GDP, at least in the short term, but much of it isn't productive growth that will improve living standards in the long term, and the bills for all of this spending will probably be paid in higher taxes. That's why it's mind-boggling that House Republicans want to help Democrats throw another deficit party. The bipartisan tax deal was scheduled for a House vote Wednesday night. It passed, by the way. It would sweeten the child tax credit and extend some business tax breaks through 2025. The official Joint Committee on Taxation score is $78 billion, but Dan Clifton of Strategist Research Partners said the bill's provision would actually cut taxes by more than $200 billion in the first 2 years. These include a larger deduction for interest payments so businesses can increase debt financing, along with the immediate expensing for research and development and bonus depreciation for equipment. These tax extenders are temporary, and they retroactively reward investments or move forward some by a year or two. This reduces our long-term growth impact. Democrats have signed on because they view the child tax credit provisions as a down payment on guaranteed annual income, and they want to boost the flagging business investment this year. The political mystery is why Republicans want to add their signature. The tax bill negotiated by Democrat Ron Wyden and GOP Representative Jason Smith is another in-kind contribution to the Democratic reelection campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it is right out of the Democrats' playbook, and why you would want to sign on to it is really beyond me.
Well, even if you're going to sign on to it, don't lie about it.
Well, again, I mean, if you're going to sign on to anything, then it shouldn't be this. It should be a welfare bill.
Exactly.
I mean, if that's what you want,
then call it a welfare bill.
Then
we're going to
write
extend
the
welfare.
bill, a clean welfare bill on the child tax credit, change tax credit to welfare.
Here's Chip Roy from Texas talking about the bill yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do rise in opposition to this legislation, and I do so reluctantly because I know of the significant amount of work by my friend from Missouri, by those, frankly, on both sides of the aisle to reach agreement, my friends on Ways and Means, important provisions in this legislation that are critical for job growth, for economic growth, critical for the well-being of our country. Numerous businesses I know in Texas and around this country that understand the importance of the expensing provisions, the interest provisions, research and development. But unfortunately, as happens in this town, this legislation comes with provisions that, frankly, the people I represent are tired of. And it's provisions that would continue to expand the welfare state, as the Wall Street Journal editorialized about, by expanding the child tax credit in ways that will continue to fund people directly through refundable credits, which we find to be problematic. And we think undermines the kind of economic activity and incentive to work and incentive to produce value that we think is critically important for economic growth. But importantly, that provision is also available to parents who are here in this country illegally of children born in the United States. We think that's a problem. We think that is not just allowing essentially birthright citizenship anchor babies, but funding it. That's a problem. Now, my colleagues on this side of the aisle will rejoin that that was a product of the 2017 bill that was pushed by and passed by Republicans, including President Trump, to which I say, right, so what? It's still wrong. It's still bad policy. We shouldn't do it. And we should not be perpetuating it now. All through the 11th hour last night, I worked hard trying to find a way to come up with a provision that might be palatable on both sides of the aisle, this side of the aisle, to find a way to say, let's get that provision pulled off so we can move the pieces that will be good for economic growth and prosperity that I think has bipartisan support and clearly support on this side of the aisle.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, and, that's it. There are so many things that are wrong with this whole thing. The Wall Street Journal did a very good job at tearing it down, at breaking it down. And, when you talk about this and the border bill over in the Senate, I mean, it's just, you talk about breaking confidence in the GOP. These are the things that will do that with their base. At least all of us who still care about fiscal matters of this nation.
Well, again, it depends how big the conservative base is, and I don't believe we care about this. Look, this is something I've been talking about since 1989, but the American public doesn't care, and most Republicans don't care.
No, they don't. They don't feel any pressure on this whatsoever.
They don't care. I mean,
it's an election year, and they don't feel any pressure on this whatsoever.
He pointed out in 2017, it was the Republicans that created the child tax credit.
Right.
Because that's what Trump was for.
Well, over in the Senate,
it doesn't matter whether Trump is. If it's wrong to do. It's if you're not being honest with the American public and you're creating a welfare program, tell Americans you're creating a welfare program. Don't lie about it.
Marco Rubio and Mike Lee over in the Senate.
Yeah,
they were pushing for it to be fully refundable. They were the ones pushing that in the Senate. They stopped the bill so they could put that in.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. The California ammunition background check violates the Constitution. A judge says. We will get to that story and a whole bunch more coming up here. There's so much to talk about here.
Yeah.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. A ton of different stories out there. Figured this would happen.
Yeah?
We knew that you had migrants going to this city. Denver Mayor Mike Johnston said his city is close to the breaking point as he pleaded for federal aid to help mitigate the migrant crisis that has overwhelmed Denver, among others across the nation. I think our city is very close to the breaking point now, and we've been talking to leaders in D.C. around the country about why we need to take action here, Johnston told Fox on an interview on Wednesday. I think we have successfully welcomed about 40,000 migrants in the last year, and we know what it takes to do this successfully. We just need that help, and the things we need are federal dollars, but the most important thing we need is work authorization for folks when they arrive. We need these resources at the border so you can add more security at the border, so you can help process these asylum seekers or these asylum claims, and so the folks that do arrive here can work. One of the challenges migrants in this city face, he said, is the distance between their arrival date and their court date for their asylum case. He told Fox News the distance renders migrants unable to work and support themselves, forcing the state and local governments to support them instead. Biden knew that when he opened the border.
Yep.
Democrats knew that when they opened the border.
Yep.
And where's the other story that I had here that talks about the fact that they will start? They're going to start in Denver removing people apparently from their shelters.
Yeah, right.
I did see
well,
that.
that's what they were going to do in Chicago. And Mayor Brandon Johnson there, his own city council came back and said, well, wait a minute. The eviction date is in February, and this is Chicago. We don't want to put people, it would be horrible aesthetics politically for us to be putting people on the street in the dead of February in Chicago. So they moved it back to March.
I'm trying to find the actual story there, but I just had it in front of me and I've lost it here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll find it here in a little bit. But it was just that they have 4,000 apparently in shelters right now, and they can't.
Right.
They can't do it, and they're at the breaking point. I love how you say we're at the breaking point, but we've successfully handled 40,000. Well, you're at the breaking point. I don't know what to say, on it to the mayor like that. You're the leader of a city that wished to be a sanctuary city.
Right.
I got to find it. Did you see the one, the Bill Maher, where Bill Maher did a, let me see if I can find it here. Do I still have it? Yeah, there's no profanity in this. I want to make this clear. But this one just going viral, this Bill Maher quote. Here we go. Here, let me see if I can get it.
Because I feel like this is a disaster for the Democrats. Because Trump today said he wants Biden to apologize. Because it looks like Biden is adopting his policy. This does not look good for the Democrats. Also, they look like sanctuary city hypocrites. They were the ones who said, look, we're the compassionate people. Everybody should get a shot here. And then when they started sending, I mean, the quotes from Eric Adams, this is the mayor of liberal New York, this issue will destroy our city. The governor, if you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else. Keep walking, is from the governor of New York. They put out a flyer, New York City Now, says New York is one of the most expensive cities in the world. You are better off going to a more affordable city.
And we've gone
talked
through,
about that.
Yeah, we've gone through all of those the points that he brought up, but everybody knows it.
Yeah, well,
and again, whether it's reparations, whether it's this, it's like we love virtue signaling, but if we got to pay for it, no way.
Well, and it's funny because it mentions Trump basically going after Biden for adopting his policy. Jason Riley over at Wall Street Journal on the border issue. Biden suddenly sounds like Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are the things that you look at, and we talked about, but Biden's not doing anything about it.
Well, but I think that it is still a legit question for all Democrats out there. Trump wanted to close the border. He said, I'm going to close the border. He was called a racist and xenophobe.
Mm-hmm.
We have had in the past couple of days Biden scream that he will close the border.
Mm-hmm.
And when asked, when Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about it, she said there are different definitions of closing the border. Do Democrats buy that? Is there a Democrat way to close the border versus a Republican way that we haven't thought of?
You know how we will know for sure that the border is closed if it were to happen. Because Mayorkas will just say the border is closed. And we'll all know that is true.
True, exactly.
Right? Isn't that how it works?
Right.
I mean, this is insanity.
And as we've asked, and that's the funny thing, when you talk about the Democratic voter, there used to be where I would go on Facebook or Twitter, and people that I know, and they're still on there, and they're all liberals, that they would, especially during the Obama administration, and then during Trump, they would scream and yell, but they've gone completely quiet.
Yeah.
And that's really, to me, one of the great unknowns. Now, I do know there's one guy that I know that's on social media, and we never talk politics, but over the past 10 years, when he puts stuff on, it's like, okay, he's a populist liberal. Because he's completely changed. He's the one person that I've seen, I'm like, whoa, wow, okay, he finally gets it. He is saying it. But Democrat voters are the quietest I've ever seen. Not the politicians, not the media. But
Right.
when you saw on social media the average Democrat that would promote stuff, now on Facebook, which would be an older audience, but remember, the older liberals are some of the most loyal liberals. When you look out there, and a ton of them that during the Obama administration and everything else were just giddy with joy. I mean, early on. I mean, when did I get on? I probably got on Facebook 2009, 2010.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so they were all giddy about about Obama and everything else, and then when Trump came in, they were and they've gone quiet. They just don't. They don't want anybody to know, apparently, what they're thinking. And I find that interesting because that's one of the great unknowns. There was a big to-do. I mean, you go to Drudge Report, the one poll, Biden up by 6, Biden up by 6. And it's just like, stop
right.
it. Stop it. And then you go to the Bloomberg poll that does every single swing state, and Trump's in the lead in every one of them, and some very significant. And you're just like, well, actually, that's a state that might be more accurate than your generalized poll of the population and where they vote. It's,
national poll,
right. Where do they stand here? But everybody's trying to get the advantage by promoting a particular poll here, a particular poll there. What it really comes down to is where I think people stand on the issues. We talked about Newsom, the audio cut we played yesterday, where he was stating, it's just so bizarre, that on all the major issues, people agree with the Democrats and agree with Biden. It's completely false.
Yeah.
It's a complete lie.
Right.
Newsom's absolutely lying. There's no, and the thing is, the media knows it. The media knows what his favorability ratings are on every single issue, from the economy, the border, and on inflation, which is the economy, extremely low, immigration, border security, very low, Iran, very low.
Yeah, and the way that Newsom delivered that, and we played it yesterday, just in rapid fire, but that's another form of gaslighting.
That things are
stating these
really
things are true, and it's obvious, and leaving no room for debate. That's gaslighting at its worst. And it goes nowhere. Newsom can get away with it because Biden will win California. But it doesn't change the facts that everyone knows where the problems are and who caused them. And now, with Biden screaming, "I'll close the border, I'll close the border,"
you see,
the far left is going, wait a minute, what are you doing?
Look at this story. Democratic Representative Moskowitz. Biden and the Democrats were late and slow to act on the border, but we want to act now.
No,
slow
to act on the border.
No, you created it. You weren't slow to act.
No,
you
actually, he acted very quickly. No, he created the policy that got us here very quickly, very early in his administration.
They created it.
Yep.
And now they want to run. Now with election, they know it's a horrible thing. Oh no! We're for secure border. It's even like you saw the it's a different topic, but in New York, where the city council overrode the mayor when it comes to they want every single encounter for paperwork to be done.
Right. Yeah.
So if you encounter and talk to anybody in the street, you need to do paperwork on it. And they're like, that's going to slow response time like crazy. They don't care.
They don't care.
I mean, that's really, if you want to know truly where somebody stands, it's when things get tough, where do they stand? And when things got tough, you had every single Democrat abandon the cities in this country.
Yep.
Say defund the police. They were all for it.
Yep.
Everybody was locked in step with that. And now, no, we need to have, and you see in New York, when they have to pass these laws, they're still doing the same thing to encourage people not to come to New York City, not to invest in New York City. They're trying to destroy New York City. They're trying to destroy the United States.
Right.
We talk about we'll get to the whole natural gas export thing that Biden wants to have a ban on it. For what reason? There isn't a reason.
There's no reason. No, it's actually, the initial reports, which came out, several days ago, cited activists. These are climate change bombs.
Yeah.
That's what they call them. And we need to stop. And so he was responding only to the climate change activists.
Yeah. It's and we've talked about energy policy, and we've said, when you look at the energy policy, when anybody tells you we can run the grid on solar and wind, they're a radical activist that wishes to commit economic, energy, and national security suicide.
Right.
Why do Democrats favor economic, energy, and national security suicide? Can any Democrat answer that question? Because you can't run the grid on solar and wind. EVs are now, falling away.
Right.
I love it. What was it, GM? Was it GM or Ford? Well, we're going to build hybrids now. Forgot who that was.
No, they're all doing that. They're all saying it. Well, we believe, and they phrase it in one article, well, the demand for hybrid is much more robust. No, it's not. Because this is what they're going to. Like, there's a new Toyota Tacoma, one of the top-selling Toyotas they have. And the 24 is making news. And there's a hybrid version that they claim has better or greater horsepower than the non-hybrid version. Well, they're trying to basically scale down these. Even their Tundra now is a V6. Well, but it's got turbo. All right, and they're phrasing it the same way they've been phrasing things for years. Oh no, this is the wave of the future. No, it's not. It's a mandate, and you're trying to fit in the mandate. Just say it. Just say it. GM and Ford, you're in the same boat.
Yeah, you're you're drowning, and you're just trying to stay above water a little bit.
Right.
But you're saying the exotic island is just 10 feet away, and it's not.
Right.
I had to say exotic because I was thinking lots of alcohol, women, stuff like that on the island. That's
right.
That's
the things that none of which are on the islands you go to. But I mean, look, I saw one story about an OEM that one of the OEMs looking at the new hybrid technology where you're going to have essentially a motor, and the motor is not going to be powering the vehicle. The motor's only job is to power the battery.
Right, the generator to power
the
battery, right.
It doesn't ever power the vehicle itself, unlike the hybrids we have now. And that will be very different. I'm very interested in the technology.
Well,
but the question is, where is the demand for that, and how expensive is it? Everything that we get into with EVs. The charging thing for the EVs is a nightmare. Now, you saw that Tesla is essentially, I don't know if they're funding it, but Ford owners are going to get the Tesla quick charge adapter for free. I don't know who's funding that. Probably the taxpayer, but maybe not. And there has to be, they're going to have to adapt.
No, you saw there was an article the other day that talked about how in the Infrastructure Act they're trying to expand that the amount of money that they initially, it was like they're going to go 10 times further.
Yeah,
10 times more spending on that.
Right.
From that bill.
Because you can't stop now, right?
And they talked about how they want to get chargers everywhere.
Right.
And massive subsidies on the chargers. But there has to be an emphasis on low-income areas that won't be buying electric vehicles.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the most bizarre thing.
Yeah.
It's pure insanity.
Right.
You cannot justify. No critical thinking person can justify what's going on.
Nope.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
The IFTA tax program redistributes tax revenue to states based on your actual miles run. Thus, the truly cheapest fuel can only be found if you subtract federal and state taxes and state surcharges from the pump price to compare. The strategy means that you buy without regard for whether you are paying more at the pump in taxes. IFTA also considers state surcharges, which complicates the fuel buying strategy. Indiana, Kentucky, and Virginia have per gallon surcharges. Connecticut, Kentucky, New Mexico, New York, and Oregon have per mile surcharges. While some owner-operators buy only enough fuel to get through surcharge states, this practice can backfire, depending on the actual cost of the fuel in each state. When comparing fuel prices, always remember, pump pride minus taxes equals the real fuel cost. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I found the article I was talking about, townhall.com. We'll get to it following the bottom of the hour. Plus, an audio cut, the letter that 26 attorney generals and the legislature of Arizona sent to Biden concerning their support for Governor Abbott in the state of Texas. So, I mean, it's really amazing the time that we live in. And you know something? It's really not. It is, everything is political, but really the situation we're in right now is basically people that wish to deal in reality and people that are delusional.
Well, and
that's what it really is.
Well,
right
because
now.
What is the mayor of Denver going to do? What is the mayor of Chicago going to do? In Chicago, they're going to evict them in March, and in Denver, they're going to evict them soon. What are you going to do? You're just going to evict them. The media is going to be right there. So it tells me they're probably going to try and extend it over and over and over again, or they're going to be on the news explaining the eviction. Wow.
More listeners not now than now, depending on when now is. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Yeah, it was townhall.com that did a story. Surprise, another major sanctuary city pushed to the brink. It's like sanctuary Democrats will never forgive Texas Governor Greg Abbott for forcing them to live with even a small taste of the consequences created by their reckless pro-illegal immigration posturing. The fallout from lax security and open borders policy were always supposed to be someone else's problem. Mm-hmm. You see, Abbott, whose state has been deluged and overrun by President Biden's historic border crisis, keeps delivering just a small fraction of the problem to jurisdictions run by pro-sanctuary Democrats. And boy, do they hate it. Mm-hmm. Here's the latest out of Denver, which is buckling under the weight of fewer than 40,000 illegal immigrant arrivals in the past year. And then they show a story from NBC News. Nearly 40,000 migrants have arrived in Denver. Starting February 5th, Denver will limit the number of days migrants can stay in shelters and send those who exceed their stay out into the streets. According to the New York Post, Colorado's capital has joined the ever-growing list of cities that have become overwhelmed by the influx of migrants, with over 38,000 asylum seekers arriving in Denver in the past year. The mile-high city has struggled to accommodate the new arrivals, who have inundated city shelters and hospitals, prompting state officials to enact a limit on how long migrants can stay in state-funded rooms. Starting on February 5th, the city initially paused the discharge of migrant families from shelters on November 17th to assist the increasing number of new arrivals. However, after seeing a dramatic uptick, the city is now housing 4,500 migrants and will resume discharging migrant families. This influx is putting a strain on city housing, healthcare, and schools, raising questions about what services are being curtailed or diminished for legal residents and citizens. A Venezuelan family told NBC News they just received a notice from the city that they will be evicted from the hotel where they have been living. And they just talked to the chief of government and community affairs at Denver Hospital, told the outlet that hospitals like his have become a safety net for the city, said the hospital officials have begged state and federal officials to help cover $10 million in unpaid medical bills for migrants. Emergency room doctor told NBC she worries asylum seekers may not be able to get the help they might need after being discharged from the ER. Denver public schools have seen an additional 3,000 students enter the system since July, putting a strain on their budget as funding gets set based on the district's population the previous October. And so they just go through all the problems that they're having. Well, all I have to say is you became a sanctuary city, raise the taxes in Denver to cover the cost of it.
Right.
You decided, this is what you decided to do. This is what you proclaimed was a good thing to do.
Right.
Based on the record-shattering federal numbers from last month, Denver is seriously struggling to handle the equivalent of 4 days' worth of illegal crossings at the border. The city's leaders have had a year to adjust to those arrivals. Border communities see as many illegal immigrants come through in less than a week, every week on repeat. As difficult and dysfunctional as it is, the only One of the only productive courses of action that might achieve change is for Abbott to keep sending more migrants to Denver and of all places until their leaders cry uncle. Not in the form of demanding taxpayer bailouts from Washington, mind you. They need to be bombarded until they have no choice but to heavily pressure the Biden administration to actually secure the border. Zero bailouts. The pain, unfortunately, must be the point. Meanwhile, the president just keeps on lying, and they have where he said, I've done all I can do on the border.
Right.
That's an absolute lie.
Yep.
Does any Democrat buy that? And let me ask the question, why do Democrats continue to lie about the border? From Mayorkas on, why? That's a question, and I've said earlier, the really interesting thing is Democrat voters have gone quiet. You don't see them on social media anymore. You see the liberal media still on it, but like I said, when I go back to all of acquaintances and social media friends and followers and everything else that I've had, Democrats have gone quiet. What do they really think? What do they think when the Mayorkas said the border is secure? What do they think now in all these cities, in New York, in Los Angeles, in Chicago? Well, when the mayor isn't taking the pro-Hamas terrorist side, as he did yesterday. And by the way, this whole thing of, now they're trying to milquetoast this thing. Well, we're just saying we want a ceasefire. If you say you want a ceasefire, you're pro-Hamas.
Right.
That's what you are.
Right.
You're pro-terrorist. Well, we need to hang on. Okay, we were going to evict the migrants, but now we're not because it's too cold. Got to wait a month. But hey, we need to take a position here that will boost our liberal base. Hey, let's be pro-Hamas. Let's be pro-killing innocent men, women, and children, and doing the most heinous things, as we said a couple of weeks ago when we actually read part of and we couldn't even do it because it's so incredibly disgusting as to what happened to women in Israel on that day, and it's completely ignored by the left. And Johnson said it for a reason.
Yeah,
he said it for a reason. There was a reason.
Right.
There was reason he came out pro-Hamas.
Yep,
pro-terrorist,
looking to appeal to the base.
And now you see, what is it? Tlaib and was it Cori Bush? The only two that didn't vote that we shouldn't allow Hamas members in the United States.
Right,
and they didn't.
They didn't vote against.
They didn't vote.
They didn't vote for the ban.
Yeah. I mean, that's how understand that so many of these people, they're not American.
No.
They don't want to be American.
No.
They want to be another country.
Oh yeah,
they really do.
Right.
And how we went from the country that we were to a country that is pro-terrorism on the Democrat side, so many Democrats, is just beyond me. But, there it is right there. I mean, Biden, I've done all I can do on the border. Everyone knows that's a lie. I'm glad Mike Johnson keeps saying that. Yeah. Everyone knows it's a lie.
Yeah, it was Cori Bush and Tlaib.
Cori Bush and Tlaib.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But when you just say that, I mean, I just wonder, because this has been an issue. The Democrats have been, even Democrat voters have been pro illegal immigration for the longest time. If you are, why do you accept the line of the president and then the reversal of the president? Why don't you judge people on the stance that they take, not their personalities? And this goes back to Trump saying close the border. He's a racist xenophobe. Biden says close the border. Everybody is quiet. Mm-hmm. Are you quiet because you know he's lying there too, that he really doesn't wish to close the border?
Well, the two go hand in hand. This position by Cori Bush and Tlaib. Think about that. No. Hamas terrorists should be able to come to the United States.
Yep. Understand.
That's officially where they stand.
Understand how radical they are and what you said. The thing that's really changed is you have the insane radicals that are pro-terrorist in this country, pro-genocide, and everybody else.
And everybody else. Those are your two sides. There is no middle ground there. And there is no soft selling this too, saying, oh, we just want an end to the war. No, what you're saying is you don't want Israel to defend themselves. You don't want them to eliminate Hamas.
Well, this is such a joke because I saw the story about Blinken and the two-state solution we need to push. The Palestinians don't want a two-state solution,
right?
So this is typical liberalism. Let's promote something that everybody is against.
Yeah,
that nobody wants.
Right.
And then we can salute our virtue signaling. We care more because we, again, just like reparations in California, we are promoting the impossible and something that neither side wants and would be impossible to do.
And in the meantime, doing nothing about Iran.
Exactly.
Iran is in full control of this whole thing.
Yeah.
They're making tens of billions of dollars every year to fund Hamas, to fund other terrorist organizations. And Biden is letting them do that while screaming that Israel shouldn't be defending itself and eliminating terrorism.
It's amazing because right there, I mean, we're covering 3 or 4 topics, but it's all the same thing.
It's all the same thing.
It's all the same thing. It's the MO of the positions and the lies that the Democrats take on all these particular issues.
And Texas doesn't have the right to defend itself, and we're going to create a situation that's so overwhelming for Texas. Oh, yeah, well, we forgot about Denver and we forgot about Chicago. Yeah, well, but we don't care. The administration doesn't care about any of this. National security, if you're going to rate it 0 to 10, with 0 being the worst, we're at 0 right now. We're at 0. The hands of enforcement are tied once again. On the city streets, no one wants to serve anymore because of what was created years ago by the left. You've made the cops the bad guys. You've tied the hands of Border Patrol agents. We don't give our military what they need. The botched exit of Afghanistan is further proof of that, if you need any. Over and over again, it is destruction at the hands of one man, Joe Biden. There is no way to dispute what I just said. Those are hard, cold facts. He could change everything with a pen. The border, Iran, all of it. The same pen. And doesn't.
And yet you have so many Democrats that actually are foolish enough to believe that Biden cares about them.
Right. Yeah.
When you have instance after instance, because if you're lying about, as they have continued to do, about the border and all the suffering, and if you're lying about it, you don't care about the American public.
No,
they don't.
You don't.
If you do the things that they do to increase the costs, to commit, as we have stated, because of what they wish to do with the grid, energy, economic, and national security suicide, what they want to do now for exports of liquefied natural gas, which would add, wealth, to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they do is to hurt the people of the United States.
Yep.
Everything they do. And what they do is then, okay, let's throw in some short-term cash that we're borrowing from future generations. And, that's the opiate of the masses.
Right.
And then we'll just keep throwing trillions of dollars of government money into the economy that shows what I call fake economic growth. You and I have said this for the longest time about when they revised how they did the GDP over a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Wall Street Journal has a whole thing on it. This is money that's just coming from being borrowed. And it's great. You throw the money in right now, and people go, we have money and we're doing great, but it's got to be paid down the road.
And for the proof yesterday that what I've been saying about Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, not serious about inflation.
Yeah.
While claiming that they've done a good job on inflation.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Where did this Daily Mail UK? Not over the hill yet. Researchers claim Biden, 81, is a super ager.
He's a super ager, Gary.
A super ager.
Gary, you need to be one of those, a super ager. I need to be a super ager. He's got special powers. He doesn't age like ketchup eaters.
They say it's actually Donald Trump who is less likely to survive the next 4 years. That is the conclusion of professors from the University of Chicago, University of Hawaii. That Biden is a super ager.
Ah, wow.
Wow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. I've got to say it again after seeing the numbers for the AFC Championship game last week. That, record like 55.7 million, I think, watched it, which was a record for an AFC Championship game. And the week before, the divisional contest between Buffalo and Kansas City was a record. It was like 50 million for the divisional playoff game. My point is, more than ever, and you hear it from a fan of every single losing team out there, that the NFL is rigged.
Yeah.
Well, then all I have to say is, why do you keep punishing yourself? Stop watching. How many times do we have to say this? What is it? Is this Animal House? Is this Animal House with Kevin Bacon again? Thank you, sir. May I have another? It's rigged. It's rigged. Well, I got to watch the next game. Stop. If it's rigged, stop watching.
Or maybe we just like watching rigged stuff. Professional wrestling has its biggest audience ever.
Exactly.
Right? And we know it's rigged.
Yeah, but they admit it's rigged.
Right.
That it's scripted.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm just reading here. This is the Taylor Swift PSYOP freaks need to go outside from Charlie Cook.
Mm-hmm.
If they believe what they're saying, then they're crazy. If they don't believe it, but think that the country at large will buy it, then they're wrong. And this all happened. Jesse Waters wants to know if Taylor Swift is a Pentagon PSYOP asset. Others are worried that the elites are gearing up for an operation to use Taylor Swift in the election. Benny Johnson has concluded that Taylor Swift is an op. Laura Loomer is fretting about the Democrats' Taylor Swift election interference. Vivek Ramaswamy believes that the outcome of the Super Bowl has been predetermined. Together, these people have a primetime cable news show, 10 million followers on Twitter, intimate access to the likely Republican nominee for president, and absolutely no idea what the country they live in is really like.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. As an immigrant, I'm accustomed to hearing discussions. This was Charles Cook.
Mm-hmm.
As an immigrant, I was accustomed to hearing discussions about the United States that bear no resemblance to America as it actually exists. Turn on a political talk show in England, France, and Germany, and when the topic turns to the U.S., you'll be treated to a cartoonish fantasy straight from the uncanny valley, recognizable in the outline, but alien in every key detail. And just goes on. That's the same thing with what he calls the MAGA grifter class. By the way, Laura Loomer, she's a nutcase.
Yeah.
She always has been.
Mm.
I had a buddy of mine that used a quote from her, and I said, you know what you're talking about?
Mm.
This woman's a nutcase.
Mm.
And he didn't know. Oh, I just like the quote. It's like, well,
right.
You know, if you're going to have credibility, you need to know who you're quoting. He goes, so it is with the MAGA grifter class, which, despite its purported hatred of America progressivism, has at long last become every bit as disconnected from the worldview of the average American as the denizens at Netroots Nations, the Squad, and MSNBC. Populism, by definition, is supposed to be popular. More than a decade into their project, America's most prominent populists are yet to work that out.
That's a great point.
And then he goes on with other things. I don't necessarily agree with him. He goes, I use that word deliberately. In modern parlance, totalitarianism is also deployed to signify authoritarianism. You know, I don't believe Jesse Waters is a totalitarian. You know, some of the others I don't know who they are. Ramaswamy I don't, but Ramaswamy, look, to me, Ramaswamy's a kid. He says great things, but he says extremely stupid things. And a lot of young people do that.
Mm-hmm.
But do I believe like Ramaswamy? So I'm not sure where Charles is going on here.
Mm-hmm.
There may be a faction of the crazy. And we've said before, there are a lot of different people that remember, we came up with the 8 demographics that supported Trump in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
There's a wide variety of people.
Yeah, sure.
The vast majority are, you know, look and they understand the binary situation. They understand what Trump has gone through, and they believe it's completely unfair. You also have a segment that's completely nuts.
I do believe the NFL is rigged. I believe that they are, and they're not even trying to hide it. They're trying to get more viewers, and it's working. Their plan, their scheme is working. And why do they do that? Money.
You haven't explained the scheme.
They're getting people to watch so they can make money. It's all about money.
That's the scheme in itself. Okay.
Money.
All right.
Through, and I'm doing the air quotes, advertising dollars.
Oh, okay. That's the scheme, the capitalist scheme.
Uh-huh. Why can't it be free?
Well, no, that's all over the place. It was like I burst.
Why can't the players just volunteer their time?
And
talent.
I burst out laughing. I burst out laughing when that whole thing came on, when the wild card game was on.
Yeah.
What was it? Not Paramount.
What was it on?
Oh, I can't remember.
It wasn't Hulu.
Not Prime, not Hulu. What was it? The one that I don't have.
Yeah.
But it was like,
for me, that's most of them.
But actually, there's sort of a sense of, but you had the games like this all the time. It's like, excuse me.
Peacock.
I knew when I woke up
on
January 1st. I had the whole day free January 1st. Woke up early. And went, wow, it's going to be great. It's January 1st, going to be sports on all day. There was one meaningless bowl game. I forgot who it even was. But it was like the number 18th team taking on the number 24th team. Nobody cares about the bowl game. Probably less than a million people watched that game, and just because it was the only sport on regular TV.
Yeah.
On Fox, CBS, NBC, and CBS, there wasn't one sporting event on. I was like, I woke up going, oh, the outdoor hockey game's on. I'll watch. Nope. Not on regular TV. None of it wasn't. It's like, it's a new world. If you want to watch sports, you're going to have to pay more for it. And
which really is, it's not exactly pay-per-view because a subscription isn't pay-per-view, but it's that same approach. Well, you're going to have to pay over here and pay over here. Here's where,
well, it's not just free. You have to go to a premium channel.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There's other stuff. They may not be charging you for the game, but you still got to pay.
That's what I mean. It's not pay-per-view, though. You're paying a subscription, but you're still having to pay.
Right.
And which means you got to jump over here for this game. Oh, but you also got to pay over here and have that subscription for that game. And one cable subscription used to cover it all.
Well, what I love is, they need to cover this. Actually has come out of Buffalo a few times. Buffalo's an older town, and there's a lot of elderly people there, and so the game should be free. How dare the greed of the NFL not to play? Well, you can say that about every I almost said record. Every piece of music that's done, every TV show that's out there, that the elderly should have access to everything. If the elderly should have free access to sports, and the elderly should have free access to everybody else. And remember, I am the same age as a lot of these old people.
Yeah, you are. You're older than some of them.
And so when I say that, how dare you? No, I'm one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that I'm not entitled to anything in the private sector, including football. But look, we make excuses all the time. We even Republicans do when it comes to, whether it's an addiction to sports, I don't know. But when they build a stadium, it's a great investment. It's a load of horse manure. It's a terrible investment for taxpayer dollars. Well, sports doesn't, it's like the same. They did the same thing with Taylor Swift, how much she boosts local economy. Well, yeah, she'll boost a local economy when she comes in there, the bars and restaurants around the area. But the fact is, that's coming out of entertainment dollars. She's not producing a good or service. It's the cost. Entertainment is the cost of doing business. People want to be entertained, but it isn't the same. It's not this great jolt to the economy overall. You're taking money from over there and you're putting it over there. And so we do the same thing with sports stadiums. Oh, the incredible, stop lying. You want your addiction fed, and that's fine if the taxpayers do it, but don't BS and don't throw out. It's like the Republicans yesterday with the whole, the whole not corporate, but the whole welfare side of the child tax credit. It's welfare. It's not a tax. It's not a tax cut. It's welfare. And Republicans won't even tell you the truth. Everybody wants to BS for their own little particular thing, including Republicans when it comes to building stadiums. And, it's like, and putting taxpayer dollars involved in it. Everybody wants to jump around it. Nobody ever wants to seriously look at it and say, is it really economically feasible or are they lying? I don't care if you want to build a stadium with taxpayer dollars. Don't lie about the economic output of it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
Because
I think it'll be interesting to watch where the streamers go with it because nothing can stop people from jumping on and jumping off. You're going to have to, I'm interested in the business model of it all, but the more you fragment it, the worse the business model becomes for any given streamer, and the fans, you've got fan outrage because it's like, okay, now I've got to get Hulu, now I've got to get Peacock, now I've got to get Paramount, now I've got to get Amazon, which is, going way up in price. Now I've got to get this, now I've got to get that. Where do I get just the one annual price for watching the entire season of games? And I don't know any streamer that's, right now talking about doing that. One streaming channel that brings all of it there. It was never the case with cable. But the problem is that the subscriber was paying one price and had one service. Now, it was different service providers, but you were paying one price and getting everything. But by the way, that falls with every piece of entertainment that's out there. It's not just sports.
Oh, yeah.
But sports is where people, again, claim ownership. Hey, that's my team. I should be able to watch them.
The sports sense of entitlement.
No, it is.
And then the whole rigging. And I was talking to a couple of people. They said, why is that? I go, well, everybody, I don't care whether it's Democrat or Republican, the last election was rigged. We're still going to go out and vote.
Right.
I mean, we're still going to go out and vote, but the election, I'm voting in a rigged election, and I will continue to vote in a rigged election. And I'm like, sort of the same thing that it's like, the NFL's rigged, but you're still watching.
Right.
If it's rigged and you're upset about it, then don't participate in it.
Right.
And I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying don't vote. But I'm just saying, no, we've got in the habit of everything is rigged, everything is stolen. So why does it naturally, if that's what we're saying in society, naturally that's going to move to sports. And that's where it is. But the thing is, the people that most loudly, that I know, it's anecdotal for me, that are screaming that the NFL is rigged, watch every week.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
which makes you think that the thing about, things, what is rigged actually is screaming about things being rigged. That's what's rigged.
Well, and remember when wrestling, this goes back to the 80s and 90s, before wrestling came out and said, hey, we're scripted.
Yeah.
If you said the accusation that they're rigged, the defenders of professional wrestling would say, no, it's not. Remember, they did that. They defended. I remember. I mean, there was an incredible in the 80s and 90s before they came out and said, okay, no, we're actually rigged.
Oh, Ric Flair would put you in a headlock.
It's just, but the fans were no, it's real. It's real. It's like, no, it's fake.
Yeah, it's fake, and it's okay that it's fake.
But
everybody knows it, except you. Everybody will admit it, except you.
But yeah, I just love the Super Bowl's next week, and I won't see that. I mean, it's
how long before that's on a streamer?
Well, it all comes down to I think the business model of it, which you and I have talked about, that you get such a big audience and you get such a huge amount of income,
right?
And you charge such an exorbitant amount, as they know, for the commercials,
right?
But do you need? Is it more important to get that money and the exposure, and to be able to get 150 million people at least tuning in to a Super Bowl, or put it on a network where only 100 million watched it,
right?
But they had to pay for it, which would bring in more income,
right?
If I'm in any sport today, in the back of my head, always in the back of my head is, look what happened in NASCAR.
Well, because
I never thought
people's interests will change based on how much they have to pay for it. There is a threshold. It's already, the time spent is already changing our viewing habits when it comes to sports. So, and I think COVID was a part of that, staying at home, looking at a screen in your house for 8 hours a day when people were working from home. And then do we want to sit there for 12 hours on Sunday and look at another screen?
Well, the whole NFL thing, too, is like, well, our taxpayer money is building part of all these stadiums out there, so it should be for free.
Exactly.
Well, you should have put that in the contract deal.
It's not in the contract.
Blame your politicians again.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
Hello.
How is everybody?
Happy February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
We're here. It's happening.
It's February 1st already.
Yep, we're doing it.
Groundhog Day tomorrow then. Right?
Yep, exactly.
The movie will be all over.
Yeah,
TV
it will be. Great movie,
the
though.
next day in it. It is.
Great movie. Great movie.
It is.
Yeah.
And actually, I forgot now. I actually drove through the town that it was filmed in. It was filmed in Illinois. I just can't remember. Is it Woodstock? I think it's Woodstock.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's Woodstock, Illinois.
Okay. All right.
I drove through. After that movie came out. I drove through just to see the town. And the thing is, I really, you want to. It's like A Quiet Place 2 that was done in Akron, New York, and the monsters falling from the sky.
Right.
Well, I've been through Akron. I don't know, hundreds of times in my life. Driving whenever I take Dad for a drive. A lot of times we head through Akron, New York, where they filmed A Quiet Place 2, and the scene in the small, I guess you call it the downtown area of Akron, which is extremely small, just
Right.
storefronts,
Right.
and everything else. When you see it and the camera angles, I really don't recognize it as much. A little bit you do, but you really don't because of the camera angles and the different things that they put. They actually extended the buildings out so they could crash things into it.
Right. Yeah.
They weren't crashing into the real buildings.
Right.
But it's where the monsters were all coming down in A Quiet Place too,
Right.
dropping on the vehicles and in a bus and everything else. It's like, really didn't recognize it. But, yeah, Woodstock, Illinois is where I think they filmed that.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You and I were just talking about the movie Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day tomorrow, and you were talking about, what was it? Is it Stephen
Tobolowsky?
Tobolowsky, yeah.
He's
the goofy guy.
Yeah, Ned. He plays Ned.
Yes, he comes up.
Great character actor.
Am I right? Am I right?
Yeah,
Am I
yeah.
right? Am I right?
Great character actor.
He's a great character actor. And yes, you started talking about the band that he used to be in and knowing Stevie Ray Vaughan and all this other stuff, which you would never think he was in the music business.
Well, it's interesting because you and I have worked with people that knew Stevie, went to school with Stevie Ray Vaughan. When you're in Dallas long enough, you're going to run into people. But being a Dallas native and a musician, Tobolowsky talked on a podcast about the band that he had, and they were recording something, and they brought Stevie in to play guitar, and this is very young Stevie Ray Vaughan, and what that experience was like, and I thought to myself, okay, but I want to hear more about Tobolowsky's. I mean, I love Stevie Ray Vaughan, of course.
Right.
But I want to also hear more about Tobolowsky's band and music and everything else. But he's just a very interesting person and a great character actor. He was so great in that role of Ned. I mean, he's perfect. He's just perfect. He just pulled it off. Just terrific.
I just love it when the Bill Murray character buys all of the insurance.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like he bought
yeah,
everything from
exactly.
him.
Yeah.
Yes, there it is. It filmed in Woodstock, Illinois. So
all right.
The town scenes, and I think the quarry scene. I wanted to go see the quarry, but I couldn't find anybody when I was in. Hey, you know where the quarry is? Nobody I asked knew. So
all right. Yeah.
So I'll probably watch it again.
Yeah, good movie.
In other stories, does anybody have any self-awareness? We've asked
I
that.
don't think so.
When I saw this one report, Fonnie Willis fired a whistleblower who warned her about mishandling federal funds. Oh. Before you make an announcement that you're running for office and your target is going after a former president, I mean, if that was my business, if I wasn't the most squeaky clean person on the planet, I would not do it. I would have enough self-awareness to go, if I go after him, everybody will be coming after me. Well, that's what you think, right?
I was going to say, even if I were squeaky clean, which everyone knows I'm not, I'll start my own rumors.
Or in radio.
Exactly. But, even if you're the squeakiest and cleanest, well, it's going to come back at you. There's no way it's not going to come back at you. Because they'll find anything and everything to come at you for, and it just seems like there's zero self-awareness in that regard. How could you not think that through, going, all right, if I do this, this is going to raise my profile. Well, what's the downside of, you want to walk through the pros and cons of raising your political profile. The cons would be everyone who disagrees with you. Everyone who is not of your party, is not of your opinion, wants to run against you, is the soon-to-be former wife of your boyfriend. The whole list of enemies thing. You want to go through that and go, okay, how could they come at me? I mean, maybe, I don't know, my boyfriend's wife. Because if you think about it, it really is the divorce that purged all this stuff to the to the surface.
But embattled Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis, fired an employee who warned her about mishandling federal funds. According to a report, the Washington Free Beacon on Wednesday reported that in 2021, less than a year into her tenure, Willis met with an employee in her office who told her that she had been demoted after attempting to stop a top Willis campaign aide from misusing federal grant money meant for a youth gang prevention initiative. Wow. Her name was Amanda Timpson, according to Breitbart. Timpson told Willis that the aide, Michael Cuffey, who was also Tillis's was her direct manager, had planned to use part of the $488,000 federal grant, which was earmarked for the creation of a Center for Youth Empowerment and Gang Prevention, to pay for computers and travel, according to the outlet, which also obtained an audio recording of the conversations.
Uh-oh. Gotta hate when that happens.
Wow. I may never have another conversation again. Now, here, I don't mind if I'm being recorded.
Oh, crap. Are we being recorded?
Because I'm on the air. As long as we're not being recorded
Wait a
off
minute.
the air.
I don't give anyone consent. I saw one of those the other day again.
Oh,
I do not give anyone consent to use my... You already did that. It's already happened.
What I like, because I saw one last week where somebody said, I know I've been told that these things are all basically a hoax, but I'm positive this one's right, and it's the exact same thing. I'm telling Facebook not to, unless you're Ted Cruz yesterday, I'm telling Facebook.
He was telling Facebook something else.
Yes, I'm telling Facebook that all the pictures and everything on there is my property and not yours.
Right.
It's like, and it's been going on for such a long time. My first reaction is, you're an idiot. Sorry, I hate to be mean like that, but that's my first thought. You're an idiot. Well, because we've been over, and the fact is they know that these things are bogus, but then it's like, well, the hope is this one isn't, that somehow magically the agreement you made with Facebook changed and it's all your property and Facebook can't do anything about it.
How long have we been interneting? It's been, let's round it off to 20 years, right? For most people actively, not social media, just the internet itself.
between 2000 and 2005, probably most people got
roughly
their first computer.
Yeah, roughly 20 years.
Yeah. Right.
The concern right away, what the government can see, what other people can see, that kind of thing. What information of mine is out there. And yet we go on social media, put all of our pictures, including everything we just had for breakfast, and say, I don't want anybody thinking that they've got control of this. Oh, by the way, here's some more for you to look at. They need to respect my privacy. How do you like these new shoes? Hey, today's my birthday, and here's how old I turn. The last four of my social are, if you don't want that out there, if you don't want people using it, don't put it out there. It's that simple. There is no, you're not going to get that privacy unless you're a private person.
Well, you get the privacy if you get a Kodak Instamatic. You take the picture and then you put it in a file at home.
Yeah, but
you put it in the binder at home.
Yeah, but you know how hard those are to burn? Let me tell you. It's a weird color smoke, too, that they put off when you burn them. It's just weird.
Yeah, that is interesting. Here's my entire life. The ones I like the most, which means I dislike them the most, but there is a perverted just observation like, why are the number one, the cryptic messages. I can't believe I let him do that to me. That will never happen again. I will die before that ever happens.
Yeah, simply, I can't believe this is happening.
Right. And then that's it. It's like,
yeah.
So you want attention. What's going on? What's happening? What's going on? Or the ones that say, I know you won't respond to this.
I like that.
And then usually it's about some disease and you need to cut and paste it and do everything else. And it's just like, and no, I didn't come here to do homework.
Well, if for the cryptic message, I like to go further on the cryptic. Well, you should hear what he did to me. And then not respond to anybody. And see, I don't ever go on Facebook anymore, so I could post it and not even hear about any responses to it and be just fine because I would be laughing in my tiny little brain. That's all I need is my own little entertainment. If you want to be cryptic, we'll get really cryptic. I'll make you think. I'll make you worry. I get a kick out of it.
Or the best one was somebody, I don't even know how the response was. It was back a couple of years. Mm-hmm. It was just in capital letters, why? And then question marks. Why what? What's going on?
Exactly.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Is this personal? And the person didn't answer. They just put why. Yeah. And it's like 50 responses. Are you okay? Do you need help? Should we?
Exactly.
It's like, well, that didn't seem like a 911 request. It was just simply, why?
Right.
And then someone, is this your sports team? Was your football team playing? Did they lose? Did they win? What's going on? Is the NFL rigged? It's just
right. Is Mr. Beast actually going to give me $10,000?
Exactly.
I really hope he does, by the way. But it's
why? That was the best. It's like, the thing is, I got it immediately. I knew the guy's sarcasm. I burst out laughing as soon as I saw it. Why?
It's just that's the best one.
I know.
Right? Just in all caps.
Right. All caps. And I thought you could
just leave it.
You do a lot. Why? How?
Just walk. Yeah.
But how?
Yeah.
With that. But
how could this happen?
and
then just leave it. Walk away for a year.
Well, it's like the scammers on Facebook now that they'll sit there and they'll tag a bunch of people and it'll say, and yes, many people knew who died in this accident.
Yeah.
That one. That one's the one. I saw one yesterday on that one.
Right.
Tagging all my friends. It was like, and your friends died in this accident too, and it's like that's a clickbait.
Oh, I love the ads. This one trick will melt belly fat in 30 days.
Cinnamon will cure your type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, right.
That's the one I saw the other day.
Don't ever eat a banana again. It's like, come on. Are we still doing that? And I think to myself, because back in the day, it would be the the tabloid things at the checkout stand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they print any of those anymore, do they?
No, I don't see.
I
see
can't remember the last time I was at a checkout stand, but
wow, remember
I go to self checkout, so I don't stand around.
I'm old enough to remember Rick Dees doing his weekly world news update. Remember the weekly world news?
Oh, Rick Dees and the weekly top one.
I just remember that.
Yeah. But the tabloids used to be, here's how you can lose 30 pounds by 10 p.m. And it's, and then they would just fly off the shelves. Now we're just doing it on web ads.
And I hate the Twitter ads that are in the comment section. You're going through and it's like somebody makes a comment and then starts a thread. Then you start reading the comments. You go to one comment. You go to the second one. It's a ad.
Yeah. I like the TV news teasers. Your children could be hospitalized by 9 p.m. We'll have the story at 10.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The border bill, where is this, and how are they attempting to sell it? It's something that we talked about the last couple of days, getting into the minutia of what the Democrats are doing. They leak out certain things. People comment on it, and they say, well, that's not what's in the bill.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And then they come out and say, well, there's so much misinformation out there of the text that they have yet to release, but they're telling you that they're agreeing with the bill.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you anything.
Right.
And it's just like, stop it. Just stop it.
Let us see the bill.
Let us see the bill.
You can end all of it by letting us see the bill.
And we'll get to more of this coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, so we didn't get a chance to talk about it yet. We've been talking about it off the air, but the whole Elon Musk pay package thing in Delaware, was it 56
I think the total was 58, and some are reporting $55 billion.
Yeah, $55.8 billion compensation deal. I still can't get. I get a lot of stuff from what the judge says, but I don't get the specifics. For example, the judge said, and what a judge came in and said, because a shareholder, there was a compensation package for Elon Musk that he said was critical to keeping the company going. I don't know whether that's true or not. That was his claim, okay? His claim. So it was approved by the board, and it was approved by 81% of the shareholders.
Yep.
Now, the exact economics of it and why he needed it, I can't tell you. They look at that and say, well, that's way over what somebody should be paid. Who sets that? Who sets that, though? And they're saying that the shareholders were not sufficiently informed about important things of the deal, but they don't tell me what those things were. Obviously, they knew what the compensation package was.
And that's the brunt of it.
Right. What else would it have been that they should have known? I can't find.
Because if you're going to make, if as a judge, she's going to make the case that Elon Musk was working with the board to keep information from the shareholders, that's lying to the shareholders or giving them false information, which would be against the law.
That's not alleged.
That is not alleged at all. Oh. But she implies it in her ruling.
It says plaintiff's lawyers argued that Musk exerted too much control over the pay negotiations. I don't know what too much control even means.
Right.
What does that mean?
Right.
Does he have more clout in that company than other CEOs? Absolutely. But what in law defines too much as to not enough, or the porridge is just right?
Right. Right. Well, again, what is the role of the CEO? It's not a ribbon cutter, especially with Elon Musk and Tesla. We all know that. I mean, he's basically the chief innovator. And so you can say what you want and say, well, that's too much money for him to make if you have that opinion. Okay, fine. If you're a shareholder, you had a chance to vote on it, which is part of the process. And that's where it all starts and ends with me.
Well, yeah, because neither you or I are saying what the right decision is.
Nope. The process played out.
What we're saying is the process plays out a certain way. What role does government have, even in a state, to say we believe this is excessive? So, if the board of directors and the shareholders wish to destroy the company through the policies that they put forth, including compensation for the CEO, who is the government? Does the government come in and protect the other 19% of shareholders?
Right. Must it be 100% vote?
Yeah.
On compensation?
Again, look, both you and I look at Tesla and say, what would it be without, government subsidies? Mm-hmm. The government subsidies were wrong. We wouldn't be dealing with this today if it wasn't for government subsidies, by the way. This probably wouldn't be an issue.
And I don't care what Elon Musk makes. It's about whether the process itself here, because if the courts can come in and go, oh, no. We don't like this compensation for that CEO. Because a shareholder files a suit. She wrote the words deeply flawed. Well, wait a minute. You're implying that they work together. In her ruling, she's implying that Elon Musk and the board worked together and kept information from the shareholders. Therefore, they couldn't properly vote on it because they didn't have all of the information.
Here's what she wrote. The judge, in the final analysis, Musk launched a self-driving process, recalibrating the speed and direction along the way as he saw fit. The process arrived at an unfair price, end of quote.
Unfair to who? 81% of the shareholders said it was fair.
Well, is a judge's role to decide what's fair or unfair, or is a judge's role to decide this is illegal or legal?
Right.
I don't see what place a judge even has in this.
Right.
There's no fraud, no allegations of fraud, just that he's such a powerful CEO where he is wielding more power than another generic CEO would have over their company.
Right.
Well, the government shouldn't be involved in that at all.
Right.
She's not saying legal or illegal. She's simply, by her own opinion, saying, I believe this is unfair.
Right.
Well, are you a shareholder?
You
Are
had
you-
if you
are you a
are, you
voting
had a chance to vote on it.
Right. Are you a voting shareholder? Are you part of the board?
Right.
Because I could look at it and look at it and say, well, Tesla's got a tough road here. Let's just liquidate the company now.
Well, speaking of liquidation,
and
if
pay
you're
off,
one of those
pay off the
shareholders,
taxpayers.
if you're one of those shareholders, one of those 19% that voted no, then you can liquidate your shares. Because if you
Yes,
believe
you can be
that
out,
$56 billion is going to be the threshold that sends the company in a downward spiral and compromises profitability long term or even short term, whatever, you can turn around and share or sell those shares right now. You can get out. That's your recourse because 81% of your fellow shareholders said we're okay with it. And that's the way it works. This judge isn't coming out and directly alleging that anything unlawful was done. That would have been the headline.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre ruling. It's a totally bizarre ruling. Deeply flawed, unfair. Well, those are ambiguous terms. You need to say it if they broke the law. Manipulation is part of business. Did anyone break the law? This may be detrimental, by the way, to the profitability of that company, of Tesla. It may be if it were to go through. I can't tell you that. I would say the demand for EVs or the slowing demand or lack of demand for EVs would be probably the biggest headwinds that they face. But if all of the OEMs, they have the market share right now in terms of cars on the road and cars being sold, EVs. So this is not, again, about whether you like Tesla, whether you like Elon Musk or anything else. It's about, does a judge have this, should a judge have this kind of power? When a shareholder who is not happy brings about a lawsuit, because now we can go into other publicly traded companies and tell me which publicly traded company today doesn't have at least one activist on as a shareholder. Activist shareholders are that's a thing.
Well, and you bring up the fact that the shareholder had another recourse.
Yep.
Well, I don't like this is what you're proposing. I'm out.
I'm selling my shares.
Selling my shares now.
And if you're, depending on how many you have, I mean that affects the price, at least the short-term price of that stock. If you had, let's say you had the 19% that voted no, but it passed, and then it went through, and Elon gets paid, and nobody went to court, and that 19% sold their shares. That would be a big deal, as you point out here in that story. Yeah. He owns what, 20? He has 22% of the shares.
22%, yeah.
Imagine he sold all 22%. I mean, that's the thing. If you sold, if one out of every 5 shareholders walked away from that company, that would be a bad day.
Oh, but that would be a way that would be their ability to show that the decision of the board and the other shareholders had there was a financial penalty to be paid.
Exactly.
For that.
That's your recourse.
But the judge saying not illegal, judges are there to say what's legal or not, what's fair or unfair.
Right. Well, and it also comes in and it implies that the court has, there is protection of shareholders when it comes to the law, if the law were broken. But this goes far beyond that, and it implies that the judge or the shareholder that is filing the suit has a right to the protection of the courts in terms of profitability of the company. And that isn't necessarily true.
Well, it says here, Delaware courts where many legal battles, this is from Wall Street Journal, where many legal battles with Fortune 500 companies play out, generally don't micromanage business dealings. McCormick's ruling focused on the appropriate process for the negotiations, not what the size of the actual pay package should be. Well, what does appropriate mean? It should be the ruling should focus on the legality of the process of negotiations.
Right.
Not what appropriate is.
Right. You should have done this. You should have. You could have done more. I mean,
abstract term.
Exactly. She used a lot of these abstract terms, by the way, in her ruling as well. And if there was a law broken, then demonstrate that. By the way, she also could have ruled and written in her opinion, look, I don't like the way this went down, but sorry, 81% of the shareholders are okay with this pay package, and really there's nothing else to say here. His relationship with the board, I expect Elon Musk, like a lot of CEOs, to be tight with the board of directors. That's the way it most often is. You have to have that synergy at the top to get things done. And if he's not getting things done, then the board can also take action, which has happened before. In fact, it happens on a regular basis where a CEO is, boom, gone.
Because if that's the case, if Disney was based in Delaware, could they go after if a shareholder sued because they're doing things that will cut their own throat?
Right.
Is it unfair that Disney is losing tons of money because they're actually not living up to their... You might have a better case of Disney not living up to their fiduciary responsibility to make a profit by going so woke that they've just, they've
made enemies out of the parents that they cater to.
Exactly.
Right.
And the fiduciary responsibility of a corporation is actually, that's actually in the law.
Right.
You actually have a fiduciary responsibility if you're a corporation to make money for the stockholder. She's not arguing that.
She's not arguing that at all. She's not alleging any law breaking. She didn't like the way that he was chummy with the board members, certain board members. The process was deeply flawed. Well, set all of that aside. 81% of the shareholders. Well, this is why she had to connect, that with the shareholder thing by saying, well, they worked to make sure that the shareholders didn't have the proper information. Now you're implying that the law was broken.
Yeah.
And if it was not, then you don't have a point here.
Because if you only gave one set of the books, if you only gave the assets and not the liabilities, in essence, you are committing fraud.
Right.
That would be fraud.
Right.
And the victims would be the shareholders.
Right.
All of them, even the ones that approved it, because they were denied information, they were given fraudulent information just by omission.
Right.
She's not saying that.
She's not saying that. Because all of that would be illegal.
Wow. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready, and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log, general form and manner, and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let's go to Ken in Dover, Delaware, about the Delaware judge's decision on Elon Musk and his pay package. Hi, Ken. You're on Red Eye Radio.
Just a couple of points. A huge percentage of our state budget comes from incorporation fees, so this decision is going to come down to money. The Delaware Supreme Court is going to review this and clarify this very quickly. This is a fatal decision to our incorporation regime here. You know, we compete with Nevada and some other states for this business. We can't afford it. The Delaware Supreme Court will review this very quickly. And if they don't call it an overturning, they'll call it a clarification.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting because I was just reading some of the analysis, and I don't know who these people are that the Wall Street Journal was interviewing, and they said it might be tough to get it overturned. My point is, I'm not really I don't understand because she's not. You may know more about it because it may be a bigger issue in Delaware than what I get here from the articles that I've read on it, and so there may be more coverage on it. But did the judge at all, or is anybody making the accusation that the judge said something was done illegally in the process?
No. In Delaware, the corporate focus is on what's called the business judgment rule, which is very permissive. If it's generally acceptable in business, Delaware usually goes along with it, and that would be this pay package. She's getting into processes which the court usually doesn't touch, especially with a huge majority with the shareholders approving it. So the Delaware Supreme Court will look at this. I mean, our state budget depends on this business.
Yeah, well, there's that, but also the process that is put into place that drives that kind of business, has to be protected long term. And thanks for the call, Ken. But it is, that's what it comes down to, is that especially when it comes to a shareholder vote, there is nothing more transparent than that. And she's claiming it wasn't fully transparent, and that begs the question, are you saying something illegal was done? Because if you're not, then it was on the up and up. You don't like the way it came out, or someone doesn't like the way it came out, but the process itself was not unlawful.
Autonomous individuals in unison. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
That's true. We are autonomous human beings together.
Let us all be one, autonomously.
That's the first time I heard that one. Or the first time I paid attention to the deep voice guy coming in. That one was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it's February, which means what? It's Biden month.
Woohoo! What? Yeah, okay.
Let me see. You've got James Biden has been called later on this month.
Yeah.
Where deposition has agreed to it.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget President's Day, because Joe Biden will make that about him.
Hunter also will be at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Is going to be called in. Reading this from the New York Post, Biden family associate Eric Schwerin told congressional impeachment investigators Tuesday that he provided free financial services to President Biden during his vice presidency while doing business with his son Hunter. By the way, providing free financial services, you are supposed to report that too, I believe, on any type of free service you get, correct?
Yeah, depending, I guess, on the value of the service. But yeah.
Biden family associate Schwerin told congressional impeachment investigators that he provided free financial services to President Biden during his vice presidency while doing business with his son Hunter. A familiar source with the testimony said he described performing without charge money-related tasks, including bookkeeping, paying bills, preparing taxes, and official financial disclosure forms for the then vice president. The rarely seen Schwerin did not address the press during his trip to Capitol Hill for the closed-door deposition with House members and lawyers looking into alleged corruption in the first family. He testified that despite being one of Hunter Biden's closest associates, he knew little about the details of the payments from China, Kazakhstan, Romania, Russia, and Ukraine. However, as they write here, testimony could still advance Republican claims that Joe Biden misrepresented his distance from relatives' business dealings. As a candidate in 2019, Biden said, "What I will do is the same thing that we did in our administration. There will be absolute wall between personal and private businesses and the government. There wasn't any hint of scandal when we were there." A second person familiar with Schwerin's remarks said that he insisted he provided his services to Joe Biden as a friend and that the favors were unrelated to his work with Hunter Biden. Some other details of the testimony were not immediately known, such as what he may have said about communications with Joe Biden using email addresses registered to pseudonyms for the then vice president. Joe Biden swapped emails at least 54 times. That would be the thing that you would want to get out. That's the thing, because if someone's leaking this stuff, it looks like it's Schwerin's people leaking this stuff, then the 54 emails with Joe Biden using the pseudonym with Schwerin, that's something I would want to get cleared up right away.
Yeah, right.
And that didn't get cleared up. Other things did that they wish to let out, because it seems like the leaks here are coming from Schwerin's people, not congressional investigators.
Right.
But Joe Biden swapped emails at least 54 times with Schwerin during his vice presidency, according to prior disclosures, as then second son Hunter Biden courted business from countries where his father held sway, such as China and Ukraine. Some of the emails were sent at roughly the same time that Joe Biden was making official trips to Ukraine as a head of U.S. policy, while Hunter was earning $1 million salary sitting on the board of natural gas company Burisma Holdings beginning in the spring of 2014. So all interesting to see where this all goes.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. And for people wondering, because I get the emails occasionally, why don't they work on this faster? And my answer has always been, to what end? Well, so they impeach him. I don't believe that's the goal of Republicans. I never have. We've talked about this for a long time. I've never believed that's what they're trying to do. I do not believe. I highly doubt, unless there's absolutely slam dunk bribery evidence in there, that Republicans will not actually hold an impeachment vote. I think they'll keep this going just to get negative information out all the way through the election.
Yeah, I think that's likely going to be the case. There is so much of this story to be told. I think so much evidence yet to be presented that it's just going to spell everything out. I think it's why you have more and more Democrats now. It seems it's just a handful, but they seem to be getting louder about Biden not being able to campaign, Biden not being the nominee and everything else. Because imagine you get to the summer, you're at Chicago, you're at convention, and all this stuff is landing, and that's exactly what I think the GOP wants. All this stuff is just going to be insurmountable. Look, there's a lot of damage Biden is doing to himself. We'll see November 5th how much of that, with the border, with Iran, with the economy and everything else that's working against him that he caused.
And also understand that Mr. Schwerin was involved, as Hunter's ex-wife said in her 2022 memoir, said Schwerin handled almost every aspect of the financial affairs of Hunter Biden's family, she wrote. So, we know, the things we know is, as we have stated before, there's only a couple of possibilities. The one possibility is Joe Biden was involved in all of this. The other possibility, which is the one that's extremely hard to believe, which the media for a while was throwing out there, they've really sort of ignored all this. I haven't heard anything. Like with Sharon coming in, I didn't hear anybody. Did you hear, what's his name, from New York, Goldman, say anything on this?
No.
I haven't seen anything on it. But
every time he speaks, he seems to be working against Biden.
Yeah. But when you look at this, there's only really, as you said, a couple of possibilities. One, that Biden was involved. And and either Biden was involved to, hey, let's get money from these people and we'll try to help them even if we can't, or, let's do this quid pro quo, but that hasn't come out yet. Or the one that the media and the Democrats were trying to sell is that Joe Biden simply loves his family and was doing anything for them.
Yeah.
And this was all Hunter Biden. And this was all Hunter Biden and James Biden, his brother, also selling pretend access to the president.
Yeah.
So they were they were going to all these different, for a period of, 10 years? We're going to all these different foreign actors and saying, we can get you access to the vice president. Did I say president? I meant get you access to the vice president, and we can get what you want done, and they never delivered. And then James and Hunter Biden, through a series of bank accounts and LLCs, distributed money to the entire family, so the entire family was corrupt, except Joe Biden, and Joe Biden had no idea that this was going on at all.
Right.
Now, they haven't said it that way, but when they say that Hunter Biden sold the illusion of influence and his father knew nothing about it, that's what they're saying. Because then Hunter has to be in it, James has to be, his brothers have to be involved in it, and then the entire family is, because the money went to the entire family.
Exactly.
I'll tell you this, in my family, if all of a sudden my brother calls me tomorrow and says, look, I'm sending you $100,000, and it'll be, through this checking account, here's this account. Oh, okay, thanks. Bye. You have no questions? No questions. Nothing.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
send it to me.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way. Everybody knows. And that's what they're trying to sell to the American public. Not lately, but that was the last time, a couple of weeks ago, when they were talking about it. It's still the illusion of influence that it was Hunter. Well, if it was Hunter, then it was James, and it was his brothers that were doing the same thing.
And this was going on for years.
Right. And then it went through the labyrinth of accounts and corporations to be distributed to all the family members, which means they were all in on it, and they were all taking advantage of poor old Joe, who just loved his family, and he was completely clueless to understand that his entire family was getting rich by millions by telling foreign entities and foreign governments that they would get Joe to do something for them.
Right.
And he's not mad at all. He's just very happy
Right.
about it because he just loves his family.
Right.
Is that believable?
And he's loaning a lot of money to his loved ones, too.
Oh, yes, he's loaning money, too.
Yeah.
Right. And then getting paid back from the money that was the money that was the pretend influence.
Yeah.
The illusion of influence.
Right. All of a sudden, my brother has all the money he owes me. All of a sudden.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to sell.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't
Very
matter
tough.
at all.
But they're trying to sell it. We're not
No,
trying to
that's-
sell it. They're the ones.
That's where they are.
Joe just loves
That's
his
the
family.
story.
And Hunter, who was just out of his mind and drug abuse, was just,
He
it was
only
illusion.
cares for his drug-addled son.
Well, then you got to bring in President Biden's brothers.
That's right.
They were involved. They were doing the same thing. They're all
Right.
involved. And then who created all the bank accounts and LLCs to distribute the money throughout the entire family? So the entire family was crooked.
Right.
They're trying to tell you the entire family was corrupt and crooked, except for poor old Joe, who just loved his family,
Right,
and never asked
a question.
any questions anytime.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think as this is, put out there more and more and more, there's no way to really ignore the evidence. You can either care or not care. That's basically where you are. Because it's the evidence is going to tell the story. And you either care to look at it or you don't.
Yeah.
Who was it, Maureen Dowd? Who was it that said, that in 2016, all of her friends were closing the doors, turning off the TV when bad news came about from Hillary?
Yeah.
All of her liberal friends. Well, you can close the door and you can not care. You can look away. But you can't refute the evidence that's coming about. And I believe most people care about something like this.
Most people care when politicians don't pay their taxes or they're corrupt in influence peddling schemes that enrich them while they're in political office.
Right.
Those are two things that the public still is against. Now, they may not be as against it as long as, hey, look, influence peddling, bribery is okay as long as you're on my political team.
Right.
That might be the case.
Yeah. So he took a little bit of money. Who cares?
They all do it.
Yeah, they all do it. Who doesn't? They're all getting rich.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. It's February, which means it's Biden testimony month. Hunter, Jim, Eric Schwerin, a business associate with Hunter Biden, apparently was behind closed doors yesterday. Let's go to Eric in Wisconsin. Eric, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi, Eric.
Hi, everybody. Look, if this president is that naive about his finances, what's he doing running the country? If he can't pay attention to his own finances, that we know money is his paramount thing. They say it's his family, but that's not true. He turned his back on his grandchild. So I'm just saying that this guy is just too naive to be running the country. He's not paying attention. Just going through the motions.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you buy into that second scenario that it was just an illusion of influence and everybody was ripping off Joe and Joe didn't know about it, you would make the case if that scenario was palatable, but it's not.
He's either too naive to run the country or he's on the take. It's one of the two.
Yeah. And by the way, you don't need to get the money yourself to be on the take.
Enriching your family.
If your family is enriched.
Well, we already know that.
That's exactly. We know they were.
We already know that. And you know who told us? Hunter.
Yeah. And so I bring up the second scenario in part in sarcasm because that's the scenario the media is attempting to sell you.
Right.
But they don't actually complete the sentence, or as we say, complete connecting the dots. Because if you do, then it becomes well, that's absurd. Well, that's what he's trying to sell you is that the entire family was enriching themselves. The entire family is corrupt. It was only an illusion of influence, and Joe was the only one that didn't know, and his entire family was using him.
Right.
Is that plausible? No.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.